everyone, Madeline Dell here, the Chapter Goddess. I am a mom, author, blogger, freelancer, podcaster, producer, and overall creative. With this show, I really want to focus on creatives and bring their authentic self to life. How are they motivated to pursue their passions? What have been the struggles along the way? Does self-care play an important role in who they are today and how they connect with the creative flow? Bringing one's authentic self to the forefront is important in this world that we live in currently. Sharing your self-care, your tips, and how you stay on track for things without losing it completely is also important. Self-care is not talked about enough, and authenticity and self-care are what I like to highlight with my creatives as well as getting to know them. So get ready for a fun and entertaining show. Hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get ready to meet this episode's guest. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode with me, the Chapter Goddess, Madeline Dale. Today, I've got two fantastic authors for you guys to meet and get to know a little bit about. So, without further ado, let me bring them in and allow them to introduce themselves. Hey, guys.
Hey, Maddie. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Well, right now it's late in the afternoon, so we're highly controversial. I'll just put you like that.
It's about nap time, I'd say, right?
Oh no, not yet. This is our second round of writing time. So yeah. I'm Rox Burkey.
And
I am the Burkey side of the Breakfield Burkey, and I work a technology job, and we write in our off hours.
I'm Charles Breakfield. I'm her chief technology officer, and I research a lot of the weird junk that we take and say, well, this sounds cool until you distort it like this, and what happens then? And so we get a lot of information fodder, if you will, on a conveyor belt to us. Here's all the technical threads. Here's all the weird stuff that's happening on the planet, and let's see if we can't tell a story about it.
I like that. So my first question, which this has been kind of like bouncing around in my head since I read through your written portion of the show, what inspired you guys to start writing together?
That actually started as a work effort. And it's because we used to, we worked in a couple of different companies together. We created workshops and we wrote technical white papers and also nonfiction technical manuals, which was, it's about like licking paint while it's drying.
So how did that develop into this, though?
Well, we published a couple of non-fictional books, and we got paid for them. It was kind of a fun gig, but they didn't make a lot of money because, like technology is outdated 10 minutes after you write something about it. So Charles said, I don't want to write anymore. So that was the end of it. And he didn't want to write. So I'm like, okay.
I grabbed up my marbles and stomped off and said, I ain't playing anymore in this game. So, well, there it is. And then Rox being the, how should I say, the pervasive entrepreneur and guiding conscience for so many things on the planet, came to me and says, I have an idea. Now, just so you know, after all these years, that's the four most terrifying words in our vocabulary. I have an idea. And she said, let's do fiction. Let's take the technical stuff that's true, the facts that are true, and distort them just a little bit and make a story out of them, and basically show people what is possible. And so I said, well, I'm not quite sure. She goes, okay, all right, let me play the last card. We can whack people in them and we won't go to jail.
That is a very cathartic way of dealing with the people that get on your nerves. So
Yeah.
I mean,
Exactly. I'm so glad you recognize that, Maddie. Not everyone does. Thank you.
yes, I feel like that's a very common thing in the author world. You're like, oh, this person made me mad today. Let's kill them off in a story, or so.
Yeah, so we've gotten even with quite a few people from our careers. So I just, and after a while, we started. Wow, we've backed so many people. We need some new material here. So, we whenever we interview somebody like yourself, it's important to let you know that we're on the hunt for a new evil genius, new femme fatale. Do you have a resume, madam? I mean, we just.
I mean, you could absolutely plug me in as an evil genius. I've only been created as an evil character one time in my life, and that's by another author friend. And it was one of the first books he wrote that he never published. It was his first completed manuscript. I'm like, you need to go back and finish that and publish it. He's like, no, it was terrible. I'm like, it wasn't that bad. So, but yeah, definitely. So how did this kind of idea of working together inspire the Enigma series?
So the Enigma series, in the initial series, because we just are ready to launch a second series, but on the original series, it was a matter of taking technology and kind of highlighting the threats to humanity of technology. So each book focused on a threat vector: identity theft, cryptocurrency, ransomware, artificial intelligence. The beat goes on. So we did that because we felt that trying to dictate to people today, especially the younger crowd, young adult crowd, you can't tell them not to do something. It flat does not work. It just doesn't work. So, but I'm telling you, after people read the first book, which was very focused on identity theft, it was like, holy crud, you scared the pee-wadding out of me, So
we've had some people actually claim that they said, oh, that can't happen, and then they go out and check all the locks on their doors and change their passwords, and oh, that's not true, but you never know. So they do get the message, and it's an age-old technique, storytelling to teach, and that's really where we think we offer the best value.
Yeah, and I am one of those that 100% feel that is the best way to get a message across, is through a story. I have found that I've learned things just because I've always been an avid reader over the years, that I'm like, where did I pick this up? And I'll think back and it's like, oh, I read this in a fiction story back in high school or whatever. And I'm just like, cool, it sticks. So.
And you go back to old writers that were considered science fiction. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea always pops to mind, right away. And all of those capabilities are here now. Yeah. So at that moment in time, it might have been science fiction, and we do science fact. So the technology is real. Mm-hmm. The scenarios are a little bit created.
Yeah, but not improbable, because we see stuff pop up all the time that we wrote about. And it's like, and that's the spooky part, seeing stuff come true.
Yeah. That's,
or seeing it in the headlines,
yeah.
Yes. And it's just like, okay, obviously that is real. Well, it's really happening. It's not so much that it's real, because we're both in the technology field by profession. Mm-hmm. So we work in that industry. We see technology often before it ever goes to, your iPhone or your Android or whatever your preference is. So
mm-hmm. It is creepy, especially when it's more like the dystopian stuff. I'm always like, oh man, here we go. What's next?
Exactly.
So let's talk a little bit about, or a little more about, the Enigma series. Tell me a little bit about what kind of starts the story and brings readers into that world.
Well, it's you should understand, in the technology threat arena, the security, The bad guys are always in the lead. They're always looking for that one target vector, the one door you left open by mistake, and they exploit it. So the ransomware software, where it's a proof of concept, and they're dropping it in here and there. They even disrupt NATO, and some of the activities are things that we picked up in where somebody warns, "Hey, look, be careful of this, be careful of that," and then it's not really contextually clear to the average person until you put it into a story like, "Oh, you shut down an entire hydroelectric plant because you got ransomware on the computers that runs the OMG." Now I get it. And so those are the kinds of things that we take, and each one of the stories is a self-contained story. It's not fair to say you got to read the whole series. I freely admit, they're richer if you read them in sequence because the characters evolve, the storylines improve and become enhanced, and they build, but they can be enjoyed by themselves. So that's an important distinction. I'm reading a series right now where they left a whole bunch of stuff up in the air, and they thought, read the next book, and it's a good thing I have it, but I'm annoyed anyway.
So Maddie, for example, you know what the Enigma machine is, right?
I don't off the top of my head, to be honest.
And that's fine. It's not a question. It's not, we're not grading you. But the Enigma
it will
machine,
be on Friday's quiz, though, just so you know.
Okay. Pop quiz time.
the Enigma machine was used during World War II. And it was used to encrypt all of the German military commands.
Oh, man.
So we start the series on that starting point, and we propose that the three founders of the R group, which are our heroes, they actually stole a copy of the Enigma machine from Germany when Poland was invaded in 1939. So we weave into the stories, even though they're all contemporary, they're all modern day. There were a lot of lessons that World War II taught the world about how to safeguard things, how to protect your allies, who not to trust, all of those things. And so the Enigma series uses that term because it's based on the Enigma machine. And so that's why the security parts are so relevant in this series. It's why, your phone, you have a phone. I know you have a cell phone, right? You can't even be parted with it when you go to bed. It has to go with you.
Yes, it's got my alarms on it.
I totally get it. But underlying that device are the same functionalities and capabilities that were part of the Enigma machine.
Ooh.
Yeah. So your voice encrypted, text messaging, email type stuff. Those are all they have a certain amount of encryption to make it so they're unreadable for most people. That's a long story to go along with it, but the basic concept is that it is the beginning of the computer age. And so that's why it was so relevant for us. We started the Enigma series in present day, and just kind of, and what we got was some people saying, where'd these people come from? I mean, these are the cyber good guys. I get that, but how come? Why? How? How did you don't take go get a job and fill out a resume for that kind of position. You're trial by fire is what it turns into. So getting the machine out, getting it to the Allies to help win World War II was the underlying principle for the R group. It helps build an information dynasty that they help corporations, they help governments, they help individuals, and each one has got a different problem, something they haven't seen. The bad guys have figured out, hey, let's go do this because nobody's expecting it. Okay, and then they have to figure out, because the good guys are always in catch-up mode. If you look at the security industry, it's like, how did this happen? Good grief. So that's the overall theme for the Enigma series.
It's nice. So they're constantly having to be on their toes. And then it also sounds like y'all have interwoven bits of like history into the story as well, right?
Small bits, and it's about the moral high ground.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be a good guy, you're going to be a good guy because you believe in mankind. You're going to be a good guy because you believe in freedom of choice. You know, it's not a political thing. It's not a country thing. It is, you either believe in people and giving them the rights to be people, or you want to, walk over them.
Yeah. It seems like it challenges their morals. I like that. Like,
exactly.
Kind of almost like if you read it, you're going to feel called out if you're like not thinking that way, which hopefully nobody does think like they have no belief in humanity. That would be really sad. So,
well, and you don't even think about it. You don't think things are going to happen at your house until someone breaks your Facebook account, or someone, reads your empties your bank account, or reads your Facebook account when you're on vacation because you said, hey, me and my family, we're all going to go to the Bahamas, and you come back and your house has been ransacked.
Yep.
Because you posted it on social media.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm going to say I learned that lesson from a friend who did that, had their house ransacked. I'm like, nope, you don't post anything until you're back. So.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's the same reason why you don't put your kids, put the name on your T-shirt for your kids, because, somebody calls, hey, Charles, come over here. I got something for you.
And your mom said to pick you up. It's okay. Don't worry.
Yep.
She wants you to go here. Let's go.
Yeah. Social engineering is probably the most hideous attack vector, and we see it. And it's usually flirts in and out of all the books, because there's always somebody that's going, here, let me borrow your password so I can log in. Oh, okay.
No. Exactly. Yeah. No, I read a story once where it mentioned an incident like that with a kid that it was actually their siblings' hoodie on with their name on it, but they still responded to it and almost got kidnapped. So I was like, nope. And my son's 5, and I'm like, we do not have his name on anything. No, not after I read that story. I'm like, no. Negative.
Yeah, but you see, the good guys wouldn't think to do something like that, but the bad guys are like, thank you for giving me information that I couldn't have gotten otherwise. And that's social engineering at its well.
And there are lots of different events that go on where crackers and hackers will show you how fast they can sound absolutely plausible. And they can get account numbers, whether it's the woman claiming to be the widow, having to get to the account because she has to be able to get a casket for her husband, and she's crying and bawling. And the other person on the other end of the phone is so upset because of this tension, gives the information away like that.
Yeah, there was actually proof of concept in one of the hacking shows. It's a Black Hat that travels around the country, around the planet, actually. And there was a gal who actually did it live. And this reporter's like, you can't get in my account.
You can't get it.
You can't get in my account.
And she's like, watch. It took her 2 minutes.
She took his credit card, called the number in the back, and started crying. And she has a recording of her baby crying at the same time. She goes, I'm here trying to
I have to go get money for my baby. I gotta get something for my baby.
And the kids, the fake crying going on. This woman on the other side sympathizes to the point where she goes, oh, okay, all right, I'll put you on the guy's account. Not even his wife. I mean, he's like,
oh my God.
He's stunned. He's looking at this like, oh, he's watching this real time and it's being filmed. I'm dying laughing because it's like, this woman is good. She is really good. And she got in under 2 minutes on his account and was charging up the storm. She goes,
cleaned it out. It was great.
Yeah. And he gave him his card back and he goes, I need to go call these people and left.
But, it also has to do, social engineering has to do with when you were raised and how you were raised. So your parents, because we're not going to go into an age thing, but your parents probably were brought up during a time where they helped their neighbors to the nth. Smaller communities, Gladys called up and needed to have somebody bake pies for a week. By gosh, she's going to get pies for a week, and 10 women are going to do that for her. So the older generation right now is at a higher risk for a sob story, and especially where the ones are, my granddaughter has to have surgery because, she has a fatal disease. Please send money. And older people are just falling all over themselves trying to help this out because that's some of their upbringing.
Yeah.
It's unfair, but my wife's got she has an account with an elderly lady, and she actually had to change the phone number, eliminate the email address, and she has to screen everything.
Oh man!
Because this woman will fall for any request. She was handing out money by the thousands.
Oh man!
Monthly, and it's like, oh, you can't, and you could not get her to break it. So we'll just take this away. We'll just arrange it so that you can't get to her. You have to get through two adults,
two other layers to be able to get to her. But it's not. You have folks that are getting older. They want you to control their finances. Maybe you send in somebody to help them. Okay, we're going to have a part-time student come help you. Okay, great. They go to college locally. They've got good parents and all this stuff. But how well do you know them? Are they on the moral high ground, or are they looking out for themselves? And so we just have to be. It's a different level of caution.
Yeah, that makes me cringe. That story, just because. So I've seen that happen one too many times, and it's just because I grew up in a small community, and
And you want to believe people when they tell you something, don't you? Your first inclination, because you were brought up that way, your first inclination is to believe, as opposed to your first inclination be to let's double check or triple check.
Yeah. Now I'm a very just stop and let me check into this and we'll get back with you kind of thing.
But that's right at the heart of the Enigma series of trust. And the good guys have learned we don't trust anybody because they also have to deal not with just the good guys, but the bad guys.
Yeah.
Because that's where the information is. What's that old adage about why were you robbing banks? Well, that's where the money was. So it's you need to have your enemies at least identified. You need to, and sometimes they call them up on first name basis, knowing they're liars. They know what they're doing because they're watching the digital fingerprints, and so we weave that into the stories, and it's the character studies sometimes are. I'll be honest, the characters end up telling us what needs to happen next. And so sometimes the storytelling gets to be, I'll wake up and like, we need to go change this character's to add this attribute because she's like, I can see that. Okay, all right, let's go back and do surgery on that particular piece. And so that's how we banter the stories, the characters back and forth to be able to do the smithing.
I wondered about that. That was actually going to be my next question. You guys mentioned it being the literary badminton. Is that kind of like, what does that whole process look like from start to finish? Does one of you guys start with the idea, or?
Well, and it's a patent pending technique that we have for writing. Basically what we do is like, one of us will wake up, with like, I've got an idea. Those 4 terrifying words again. And the story will spill out on the page, and one of us will, the creator will take a look at it and say, here, take a look at this. And we'll bat it back and forth. Okay, smithing, polishing, honing. Does it fit with the story? Does it fit with the character? Is it heading in the direction we want? Because we want to tease out the storyline, the threat, and then solutions, so you don't get it in one page, but you get it over a novel. So that's that, and it's a professional thing that we've worked on forever, which is it has to read like it's from one person. I can't have somebody. Okay, I read this particular chapter.
So, for example, we surprisingly we exchange everything electronically.
Oh, that's
so we keep track of the chapters, we keep track of the threads of the story, and we do characters, yes, and all of those kinds of things. Which obviously, since you write stories, you know that all of that is reusable in social media or in here or in there. But what's really good is our first editor in the series is always his wife.
nice.
Okay. And when she comes in and says, okay, who wrote this chapter? We know we've done it right.
That's always good to know. Like, you're like, yes, this is good. And that's also, especially with going into the editing process, you're like, yes.
That's right. Exactly right.
So the back and forth electronics, do you guys keep track of like the characters in Excel files? How do you keep things organized?
Excel is our primary go-to. So characters, their descriptions, what books they're in, because from book to book, even though you don't have to read them all, characters do appear in other books and they're not static. So as the book ages, they age. And so they evolve as people do. That's why Charles was saying earlier that it's richer when you read the series because they have a life, they have relationships, they have families, they have, mistakes, whatever the case may be.
Yeah, we had one reader write us and complain. He goes, I cannot stand this Zara individual. She shows up in book number 4. She goes, she's so contemptible. When are you going to whack her? I mean, I just need to make sure that, she's buried someplace and I'll feel better. And she pops up a couple of books later and then another book after that. Until finally we get this note back. She goes,
you had to redeem her, didn't you?
Yeah.
Damn it. Oh, I'm sorry. I said that word. You probably have to leave that.
No, you're good. You're totally fine. It's totally okay on the show.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, she complained. She goes, man, I so love that character now. And I'm like, oh, okay.
That is too funny. So they went from hating them to loving them by the end of it.
Yeah. So
but people do that, right? I mean, people have personalities. Sometimes they start out not so hot. And sometimes they start out really good and then they become bad. So, I mean, it works both ways.
Yeah. So that was probably the best example of somebody who let us know. Yep, I love her, man. Love her. Okay.
Yes. So one of the characters I wanted to ask about, it's mentioned as the main character of the very first book, Jacob Michaels. Does he stay in the story consistently, or tell me a little more about him?
He is a wonderful, wonderful man. So he was raised by his mother and his grandmother when they left Europe and went to New York City. And he learned multiple languages. Each day of the week, they talked a different language inside the household. He learned technology from them. His mother was a technologist and a programmer. They were part of the original R group, only he didn't know that. But he was raised in a way that, he had nothing but study all the time. And so he never missed the social side of the world because he was too busy trying to make sure he could get over there next, hoop to be able to learn another language or learn another this or learn another that. And he became what they call a penetration tester once he finished school, which is somebody that looks at systems, looks at networks to try and see if somebody can break in. So that was his job, was what they call a pen tester.
Yeah.
And then his mother somehow mysteriously died one night as she was walking home from work. So she, it took a couple of books to prove that she was killed, but he was left by himself. So he's an orphan. He thinks he has no family whatsoever. And so book 1 really goes about how someone tries to steal his identity, because that one is focused on identity theft. And people are after him. And there's good guys after him, and there's bad guys after him.
And the trouble is, he doesn't know which ones are which. And so his world is turned upside down, and he has to figure out, all right, I know these people are coming after me. Which ones can I trust? And then we're right back to the very core of security. What do I trust? What do I have to verify? Because it's an attack vector, and I can't see it from this side. I can only see it in hindsight.
Ooh. So how does he come into contact with the other heroes of the series?
So you'll have to read book 1 to find that out.
Okay. I was like, thought I could get that one sneaky, no spoilers. Yes.
Nice try. Yeah.
It was good.
I gotta try a little bit, right? So,
Well, suffice it to say, he has good people following him, and he has bad people following him.
Ooh. Nice. So another fun, interesting question, because you guys mentioned that y'all have traveled all over the world. What was one of the places that had the biggest influence on some of the world building in this series?
I'd probably say Brazil and Europe.
Yeah. Brazil was big. So there's a small contingency now that actually operates out of Sao Paulo. So, there is a group that lives there. And so we can talk about that area because actually we've both been to that area. We did 3 weeks of workshops in that area. But we bring up other places around the world. So, for example, in one of the books, we chase the bad guys from Turkey to Tokyo to Singapore, and then to the islands.
Yeah. So what's important about that is that the world has shrunk. I mean, it's not just U.S. centric, and a lot of our buying customers are European. So, it's important to be able to say, okay, the digital universe is more than just the U.S. It's the UK. It's the South America. It's Japan. Chinese. We weave in all these destinations, mostly because there are threat vectors that surface from every place, and it makes the story richer in our estimation, rather than just being myopic, saying, "Oh, it's only U.S." Well, that's not true. If you don't think so, look at the attack vectors that show up all the time from Turkey and South Africa and
or Russia or China, because all of those places have a role within the books for either really good guys or really not good guys.
Yeah, so we have to account for all of the story threads that originate around the planet.
Ooh. So did you guys have a favorite scene that you put into the book? And this could totally do you have a favorite scene with any of your characters that stands out? And it could totally be different for each of you guys.
I think one of the favorite scenes that I like to hear about actually was his scene.
Ooh.
And it ended up being from a trip that he made to Russia.
Yeah, I've been to the Kremlin, and the tour we were on, we got to see all of the different cathedrals inside the Kremlin. Kremlin's not just a building; it's a series of buildings surrounded by a wall, and it was quite remarkable. This is pre-Putin, obviously.
Yeah.
But the people were amazing, and they even poked a little bit of fun at themselves. And one of there's one book where we have our AI enhanced supercomputer Ichabod, who's trying to understand humor. And so he actually takes a stab at it. And that particular piece where he pulls up his main programmer, Quip, short, because the guy, he says, he pulls the gag on him, and Quip's like, he can't understand, what are you saying? And he goes, oh, is this where additional contextual clues are supposed to be provided so you understand that there's mirth and humor in this exchange? And of course, it catches him completely flat-footed. He starts laughing hysterically because, oh, well done, Ichabod, well done.
Nice.
So there's 3 cathedrals.
Yeah.
Right. What are the name of the 3 cathedrals? Help Maddie out here.
Okay. There's the Cathedral of Ascension, the Cathedral of Atonement, and I can't remember the other cathedral. And what happened was that they were for births were one, for marriages was for another one, and the other cathedral was for deaths.
Accession, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so Ichabod says, I think we should shorten it to hatched, matched, and dispatched.
That's perfect. So would you say that's your favorite scene too, or do you have another one that comes to mind?
Actually, I have another one with, again, Ichabod, he's a primary character.
My next question is going to be about him. So
he's always evolving. And in book number 7, I just got finished with the Audible on it, doing a proof on it. And so it's still fresh in my mind. But Ichabod is complaining to Julie, one of the cyber assassins. He says, Julie, Quip's been picking on me all day long, attributing these coarse, vulgar statements and accusing me of saying, using lines from 1950s tech noir stuff. And she says, "Oh, Ichabod, I'm so sorry, but did you mean it about dinner? Did you mean we could go out together?" And he slips into this persona from 1950 of a detective. He goes, "Yes, I want you to wear the sparklies on that low cut dress that we first met. Nobody will give me any grief because they can see my heater bulging underneath my coat." And it just, we goes on and on and on, and Quip's going like he's not there. And she's coming on to him. He's enjoying the repartee, and so they finally get to the end, and it's a hilarious sequence that was quite impromptu. That I don't know what made us come up with that, but we do that. That's part of that literary badminton of batting ideas back and forth until we get it the way we want.
But characters do have humor.
Yes,
they do, and so even the machine characters like Ichabod, who is trying to learn humor and trying to understand if he has earned the right to be an I.
Yeah, we actually have a sequence where he's taught him, he's loaded up his own synthetic voice program so he can now speak, and nobody told him to do that. And so his programmer, he goes, I'm uncomfortable with this. You need to earn the right to be able to refer to yourself as I.
Man.
And throughout the book, he's progressing further, and he to his point. And you know how hard it is to write a story with the word "I" in it. So we did it, but to the end, he's granted the right to be able to use.
You're giving the ending. Stop
I'm not giving the ending.
Please.
Tell me more about Ichabod. What does his name actually stand for? Because it's an acronym, right?
It is an acronym, and we write specialized terms. And anybody who can go to our our website, and download the specialized terms. It's one of the free stuff, and that's really fun because we do acronym salad, which is a technology thing, and it's really true for almost any industry. But go ahead.
Yeah.
What does Ichabod stand for?
So it's a way we poke fun at the high tech industry, because you can if you ever sit in some of these high tech seminars that we go to, they use acronyms to be able to talk faster, and it just sounds like gibberish for anybody that's normal. Okay. But Ichabod stands for immersive, collaborative, associative, binary, overridden, deterministic systems.
That is a big word.
Yeah,
it is a big
Best
word.
of words.
But Ichabod is a supercomputer, but he's one of those characters that we introduced in book one who didn't have the capabilities that he has now. So he didn't know how to talk because speech enablement wasn't part of it. He, supercomputers eat globs of data.
Yeah.
I mean, from everywhere. And if you don't think so, just look at your phone. Everything on your phone and every other phone in the world is in some supercomputer somewhere, part of a data lake access point. But it takes time to teach a computer. So there's a machine learning element that's also very important to that evolution of a supercomputer. So have you ever seen Sophia? So Sophia is actually a computer that was designed by the Chinese specifically to look like a person. And she looks like Audrey Hepburn.
Oh.
And she was also the very first computer that was given citizenship by Saudi Arabia, which is very interesting since they don't like women.
Yeah, and I didn't know that was actually doable. You could give that.
Yeah.
So if you go on YouTube, you can see Sophia. But there were several different experiments that were going on around that same period of time. And another big tech company decided, okay, I'm going to have my computer ingest all of the social media that's out there and decide, that's how we're going to teach this supercomputer lickety split.
Yeah.
So there was so much horrible statements that were on social media at that moment in time.
Hate speech, all kinds of
kinds of hate speech, all kinds of things that you just don't want people. That's not how you want to teach anything, let alone a computer. And so they had to scrap the whole project and start over.
After 24 hours, it had vacuumed up so much trash, they couldn't do anything with it except reformat the drives and start over. That's how bad it was.
You have to, because there is so much data out there, one of the things that we keep kind of focusing on these days is guardrails for computers. So, people program computers.
Yeah.
They help make the decision on what's the system going to do or what's it not going to do, what's a program going to do, what's a program not going to do. So you can program something for ransomware just as well as you can program it to balance your checkbook. Okay, but there's a guardrail on what you will allow or not allow your program or your system to do. And so that's kind of where we are right now, especially with artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
Because machine learning is fast, really fast.
So we spent 2 books in the series, book number 11, number 12, where we really get in and dig into what happens when artificial intelligence goes wrong. We call it, the subtitle is Who Won the AI Wars? And so it was very insightful, and a lot of the stuff that we were alarmed about is really being the fires are really being fanned currently with the chat GPT and the GPT-4 and some of the next generation applications on here. Do this for me. And our big challenge is, okay, do you know what the answer was? What it meant? Is it true? Can you verify it's true or not? And here's the breaking point. When it gets to the point where people can't tell you this is true, because I know it's true, I've seen it, or it's like, well, maybe it came from the computer, maybe I'll just go ahead and accept it. What if it's wrong? This is where the breaking point, this is where the guardrails come in. Like, you don't want to be in that position where I'm trusting something that I shouldn't, and I don't know any longer what's true. Wow.
So we actually got recently impacted by that kind of technology when book 1 of the brand new series, which is part of the Enigma, airs, when somebody reviewed the book for us. And so we got the review back. Yeah. And though the review had functionality and comments that were relevant to our entire series, none of the characters referenced in that review were in the book, because book number 1 of Enigma Heirs is totally the next generation of our art group. And everything that was in that review was pre that. So what had happened was they used an AI formula. They used probably that application who went out and milked everything on the planet about Breakfield and Burkey's books and came up with something.
And it didn't match. And it was
At all.
And so we were furious. And now we've gotten to the point where, when we publish anything, we put a note that says this was not generated by
AI.
AI.
Wow. I know that AI stuff has become a huge, huge issue. So it's
And just so you know, we're not generated by AI either.
Yeah, no. Oh man.
But the other thing is there's a point where you have to decide. You have a son that's very young. Okay? He's in the formative years of how to learn. He hasn't learned everything he's going to learn, but he's learning how to read. He's learning how to count. He's learning how to be responsible. He's doing all of those wonderful things as a young person because it cultivates his mind.
Yeah.
It makes him logical. It helps make him decision worthy. It just helps him grow. If you take that away and constantly give him only a phone or an iPad or the television to work with, his frame of reference is not in here.
No.
His frame of reference is what someone else has said, and whether that someone is a person or a computer, you have no idea. So it's part of the guardrails. It's also part of our freedom, in our opinion. Do we want people to have the freedom to make a choice? If you're going to have the freedom to make a choice, then you better go learn stuff on your own. You better be able to do that math formula. You better be able to read a book and say, I really didn't like War and Peace. I don't care what you say. It was boring.
Yes, man. So the final question before we go to you guys telling us where to find the series and everything is, what do you guys do for self-care?
For self-care?
Yeah, for self-care to kind of keep your mental focus and everything moving forward.
Honestly, I'm always scanning the horizon for technical information. What about the publishing this? What about this kind of social media? What kind of, what's the, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the quantum physics and quantum computing and entanglement. I mean, is that a useful?
And he also likes to ride his Harley. Okay, come on.
Right.
I like it though.
Right.
Physics was not my cup of tea in college and stuff. I struggled with physics, but there are a lot of people that enjoy physics and they can get lost in it for hours. So
there are pieces and of your education in everything, and in so many different from so many different directions. I don't want to be myopic. I only go to this place for my information. Kind of self-centered, don't you think? What if they're lying to you? Oh, that's right, I forgot. This is not accurate. So I'm always looking for proof points. Early on in my when I was in high school, I had an algebra teacher, and we couldn't do any of the problems without the theorems, and he wouldn't let you use the theorem until you proved it on the paper. I've learned more about algebraic equations from that man because he made me learn I just looked this up. How do you know it's true? And that was the proof point I learned many years ago. How do you know it's true? And that's what we challenge a lot of times in the books. And we're trying to get people to understand, here's a story, what's true.
Oh, yeah. I like it. So, Rox, what about for you?
So I like string theory. However, I really like to cook. And so in my fun time, I do cook, create all different kinds of things from soup to desserts. Last December, I hosted a party for a whole bunch of authors.
Oh, nice.
And we made somewhere around almost 200 cookies.
Ooh, that's a lot of cookies, but I bet they were good.
They were yummy.
Yes, those are both awesome. All right, guys, we'll go ahead and tell our listeners and viewers where they can find you on socials and where they can snag your books.
Okay, well, Maddie, thank you very much. So I think the first place would be stop at enigmaseries.com. That's the first place. So books are available, almost anywhere. We also sell them directly off our site, signed. So if you want a personalized gift, Father's Day is coming up, Mom's Day is coming up. We're happy to do that. You can also get them on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, pretty much anywhere.
Yeah, and not just in book format, but also in Audible format as well.
Ooh, yay.
So we got a spectacular voice actor. Different between a narrator, he's a voice actor because for all the characters that we have, we really exercise his abilities and the voice of the Enigma series. So
and his name is Derek Scholes.
Derek Scholes, right? Yeah, and we have snippets from the Audibles as well as snippets from the books. Video trailers for the books we're quite proud of on the website enigmaseries.com. So
and free downloads.
Yeah,
lots of free downloads. So the specialized terms I mentioned before. We have password clues. How to make sure you're using good passwords. It's a free download that people can get right off the website. And actually for 2023, any reader who reads any of our stories, because we have the series and we have the brand new series releasing on March 31st. We also have a bunch of short stories. So any book that any reader will read, if they put the link on the Rafflecopter on the front page of Enigma series, they're entered into a gift card for $25 every month.
Nice. That's an awesome, pretty sweet deal for you guys as readers listening in. So, yeah. Well, thank you guys both for taking time out of your day to chat with me. I hope you'll come back on the show in the future. So
we'd love to, Maddie.
Yes.
You're charming. Lots of fun.
Yeah. Thank you. All right, guys, make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Show our authors some love and have a great one. I hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to get future notifications when shows come out. Also, be sure to check out my website. I have a blog featuring this creative with some other fun and interesting questions. You can also subscribe to my newsletter there to stay up to date with all things the Chapter Goddess and Madeline Dale. Once again, thanks for watching and have a great rest of the day.